can see that it has started some downloading of some packages which we use in React.js. So we have to wait later on. I'll explain everything about the folder structure of React.js. So guys, after a few minutes, you would see that your installation and download part would be done, and now your React.js project has been set up. So first of all, it would be just downloading some packages, then it would install everything. Okay. So now what we'll do is we'll simply first of all explore what it actually does. So let me just tell you one thing, guys. If you want to just check what it actually does, what does this project do? What is this project doing is, so I would just first of all right click, open integrated terminal, and here you just need to type npm start. Okay, if you write this, it would start your React.js website, and let's see how it actually looks. So you can see that it has started the web page. It looks like this. Now it's saying edit the app.js and save to reload. Okay, so now let's go to app.js, and you can see that the same code is written here. Okay, so you can actually edit this. For example, I can just say, hey there, this is me, Harshal Jain. Okay, so you can see that I would see the same changes here. Okay, so first of all, you know that what's the first page you see. So app.js is the first page which you would see. That means this is your home page. Okay, this is your home page. Right now you can assume this is your home page, but later on we'll be defining different routes and learning what's exactly the purpose of each page. But right now you can assume that this is your home page. But how does actually things work here? So first of all, inside the public, you would look for an index.html file. Okay, so you can see that this is the index.html file, and this HTML file is a template. If you open it directly in your browser, you will see an empty page. But what it actually does is we have a single HTML file. Inside this, we would be loading different components of React.js. That means inside a single HTML file, you would be having your home page, about page, contact page, or whatever page you want inside a single HTML file. Initially it's empty. You can see initially it's empty, and it has an ID of root. Okay, it has an ID of root, and you can see we don't have anything here. Now if I take you to a page which is actually index.js, so you would come here and you can see that it's targeting an element named as root. It's targeting an element named as root. It means it's targeting what? It's targeting the element of index.html, right? Division of index.html, which has the ID root, right? Now it's targeted. Now I'm just saying that inside that, just show this. Okay, root.render, that means inside that division, just show your app component. That's what I'm saying. So it's just showing my app component. That's it. Okay, so this is actually a component. Later on we'll be learning more about this, but that's how things work. So the first thing which loads is the index.html. Inside index.html, we are actually calling index.js. That means we are simply saying, so the first thing which loads is index.js. Okay, then inside index.js, two pages are loaded. First is the index.html. That means index.html is loaded. You are just saying index.html is loaded. That means you are just saying that inside index.html, I would simply call whatever is written app.js, written inside app.js. So you're just saying just call index.html. Okay, first index.js loads, then inside index.html, I'm just going to show this. Now what is this React.strict mode? What is this app component? And what is this again React.strict mode? So you might find this code similar to HTML code, but this code is actually known as JavaScript XML. That means it's similar to HTML code, but mostly JavaScript. Okay, so first of all, let me just explain what is this file doing. So here you can see, first of all, we are using React.js, so you have to import React.js. Automatically everything would be done when you set up React.js. Now inside this you need one more thing, that is ReactDOM. So ReactDOM actually converts your HTML page into a branch structure, that means collection of objects, and then from that you can actually use this. Okay, so this is just for tracking elements from the DOM structure. That means in HTML we learnt about DOM, right? In HTML, CSS, JavaScript we learnt about DOM. So that's what it does. So to use DOM in React.js, we actually use ReactDOM/client. Okay, so now one more thing, that is we have index.css file which has some CSS code, and see which has some CSS code, so it's just using that. Okay, now what else, you can just come back here, and after this after this, if I go back to index.js, you can see we have imported app component. Okay, later on we'll be learning about components, but right now you have just imported app component. That means we have imported this file. So what we have done is we have simply used app, so whatever is written inside this division would come here instead of this. Okay, would come here instead of this. Okay, so you can assume that this whole division, either you write it this way, if I just copy this and you paste it here, either you write it this way, either you write it this way, and you have to make the imports also, you have to use all the imports from here to here, or you can just say whatever is written inside this, just show here. Okay, that's what I've said, whatever is written inside app.js would come here. Okay, so now you can just see that we have one more thing, that is root.render. Root.render simply says inside this element, that is this was a division inside index.html, right, div tag. So I'm just saying inside that div tag, show your app component. That's what I've said. Okay, so guys, now we know what is root.render. Now what is React strict mode? So it actually wraps app component inside React.strict mode. You can see this page actually wraps our app component inside React.strict mode. It is a tool for highlighting potential problems in an application during development. So if you have any problems, it would allow you to just show the problems. Okay, it would let you to know the problems. If you have any bug in your code, it would help you to get that bug. Okay, so this is a very basic structure of index.html. Now, so this is a very basic structure of index.js. Now we have app.js, so you can see that this looks actually like a HTML code. So because this is an HTML code, this HTML code is actually converted into JavaScript code using this JavaScript function. I hope you know functions in JavaScript, so it is actually a JavaScript function, and altogether this code is known as XML, JavaScript XML, that is JSX code. So JavaScript XML code. So you can just see we have wrapped HTML code inside our JavaScript function. This is known as JSX. Okay. So now I have explained a very basic overview how things actually work. First of all, your index.js would be loaded. Inside that, we'll call index.html file, and we'll also call app.js file, and we'll just say inside index.html, I want to show my app.js file. That's it. That's what I've said. Okay, so now we'll create our first component. So here you can see we have app.js, right? We have app.js, and inside this we have some stuff. So first of all, I'll just remove everything. And you would come here, and if I just reload, you can see we don't have anything. And one more thing, that is this is taking styling from app.css, so we'll also remove this. That's it. So now guys, what you have to do is you just say, suppose it has a class name. Okay, you can change the class name also. It would be using styles from app.css, just like a normal CSS. So right now I'm just going to say that we have a component. Okay, so we'll just say we have a component here. What we can do is, for components inside the src itself, I'll be creating a file named as components. Okay, we'll be creating a directory named as components. Now here I would just say we have a navbar component, so I'm just going to name this component as navbar. Okay, so again I'm going to create a directory and name it as navbar. Actually you can just capitalize this also, but anyways, all folders, main folders start from small letter, that's why I'm starting with this. But I'll just say that all the component name must start with capital so that you identify easily, right? So now if I just write navbar.js, so you would see a empty JavaScript file. Now here guys, we need to use a shortcut. So what I will do is I'll install an extension and just name this extension, the name of this extension is React.js. If you write this, you'll get a lot extension. You have to look for ES7 plus. Okay, so you won't get the extension directly. I think, yes, this is the extension. Yes, this is the extension. So you just have to install this extension. So mine is already installed, but you just need to click install. If you get the install button, then it would be done. Okay, once you do that, you'll get the shortcut. So if I type RAFCE, so you would see that we get the small component. Okay, now what I'll do is inside the app.js, I would simply say nav bar. That's it. Okay, so that's how you actually use a component. Automatically it would be imported, but yeah, if you know the path, you can write the path also. So you can see very basic overview. You can see we created a navigation bar, simple navigation bar, and then you can write that navigation bar here. Okay, so you can see we have the nav bar. Similar to this guys, we can actually create other components also, as many components you want. For example, I would like to create one more component, that is for footer. Okay, so we just say that we have a footer, and we have to name this footer.js. Okay, now just again say RAFCE, and you can see we have the footer, right? So now if I come back into app.js, and here you would just write the footer, so you can see we have the footer. You can see we have the footer, and in between I can also write some extra code, like for example if I write division, and let's say it's let's give a class name of body. Okay, let's say it has a class name of body, and here I have to simply say that we have a h1 tag, and say this is my heading, and inside this I would also give a paragraph. So I would just say p, and after this I can actually type lorem uh, 30. Actually it won't work directly, so like you have to copy paste. Lorem 30 doesn't work here anyways, so I can just write some paragraph. Okay, so this is my paragraph. Okay, so I'll just copy this and paste it again and again and again, and you would see that you have this whatever you have written inside this, and after this above this you have the navbar, below this you have the footer. So now guys, I hope you know what is exactly a component. You can just create components and use it in any page you want. Now let's add some stylings. Okay, so you can see that inside app.css we can write our code. So we'll just target our app class. Inside app class we have what? So you can see we have a class name as body. Okay, so we'll just say our body. Inside body, suppose we have h1 tag. So right, we'll just say that this h1 tag is suppose having color red. So you can see this h1 tag is having color red, and similarly I would just say that this p tag is also having some color. For example, this p tag is having color of blue. So you can see that you can style it as normal CSS. You know that now you can style this. Now suppose I want to give this body some border. Okay, so I would just say this body is having, suppose I'll just say it has a background color of yellow. Okay, so let's say it has a background. So you can see that's how I style my body. Now if I want to style my component, how can I do this? I can simply go to my component, and let's say I'll just give it a class name of navbar, and I'll just say that I would just create a CSS file here. So I'll just say navbar.css, and you can see we have the CSS file, right? Now I want to style this. I would just say that we have to import the CSS file. So I would just say import dot slash, in the same directory you have to look for navbar.css, right? So that's how you actually make an import of CSS file. Now I would simply say we have the navbar class, so I would just say inside the navbar class, suppose I would just want to say background color is suppose black, and the text color, whatever text would be written inside this, would be suppose white. So you can see we have this, right? We have this. Okay, so I hope you got this. Now one more thing is similar to this, we can style the footer also later on, but the problem here is you can see we are getting some space. Why we are getting some space? It's actually because if you go to app.css, you have everything fine, but by default every element in HTML CSS has some margin and padding. So what you will do is you can simply go to the root. I would just say by default no element would be having some any margin or padding. So I would just say star, and margin padding 0, and you can also make border box sizing as border box, but at least these two fields are required. Okay, so now you can see that any default margin padding is now gone. Okay, so now guys, I hope you know how to actually add import components into a same file, and then we can just style components also. We can style the components and different components of a file, and we can style a file also like this. Okay, so one more thing, that is suppose you have a component. Okay, so you can add one more component inside a component. That means you can make branching also. For example, inside the navbar I want to use footer component. Okay, I want to use the footer component. So you can see inside the navbar we have the footer component. Okay, so you can use one component inside other also. So that's how you can actually use one component inside other component also. So in React.js, everything is a component. The app.js file is also a component. Inside that we have used navbar component. Inside navbar, right now we use footer component. So everything is a component in React.js, and it actually helps you a lot to minimize the code, and is very beneficial for the current trend in the web development. That means you have a lot code and reusable code, so you can use the navbar everywhere, right? In every single page you have the navigation bar, so you can use this component everywhere. So it makes the code very easy for us. So now guys, that's it for today. Very basic introduction. In the next video we'll be starting with JSX and learning more about components. So I will see you in the next one. Till then, see you, have a good day. Bye bye.